Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, the governor made some pretty big announcement on Tuesday in a press conference at Government House, and the biggest might have been the pay increases to be implemented for executive branch employees. But the governor also discussed other issues, including job vacancies and the reason for his meeting with cruise executives. News 2's April Knight has that story.
Pay raises for government employees were not the only big news in Governor Mapp's press conference on Tuesday. He also introduced his new communications director, Nicole Bolentini. She's replacing Kimberly Jones, who's now Deputy Health Commissioner. Bolentini was tasked to take part in the administration's media campaign to market some 875 vacant positions in the executive branch.
To get involved with the Director of the Division of Personnel, Mr. Milton Potter, and bring some more focus and expanse to that advertising campaign.
The governor also announced that they're working on a new internet portal where expenditures of executive branch officials will be posted for public viewing. The governor's spending has gone under scrutiny since he took office, from the $12,500 a month villa that he rented for 5 months to stays in luxury hotels and even to his beer purchases.
That is part of this business of running government. We serve beer and wine and alcohol at our government house functions. They're in our budget, they're authorized, and you don't think they are, and we don't agree, and that's it. But I'm not buying the beer and putting it in my pocket and taking it home and sitting down in my house drinking beer.
The governor left the territory the same day to meet with cruise line officials in Florida. According to the governor, it's to address a situation resulting from a VI government representative communicating information that may have caused concern among cruise executives.
We see a number of ships who are being pulled down off of the schedule. We had an issue with one of our representatives, who I will leave unnamed at the moment, at a meeting in Florida that may have caused some serious consternation with one of the cruise lines.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Lieutenant Governor Osbert Potter is currently acting as governor until Governor Mapp returns to the territory on Thursday. Well, Tuesday night was a historic night for all of America. President Barack Obama, who was first elected 8 years ago as the first African-American president, gave his final State of the Union address. It was a list of accomplishments, challenges, and a vision of the future, and got varied reactions from those who were present. News 2's April Knight has more.
On Tuesday night, for the last time, President Barack Obama addressed Congress and the country on the State of the Union. The two-term president struck an optimistic tone similar to when he was running for the presidency, a note of hope and change for the future.
I want to focus on the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and beyond.
The president did not miss a chance to list his accomplishments.
More than 14 million new jobs, the strongest 2 years of job growth since the 1990s, an unemployment rate cut in half.
But he also expressed frustration with a growing political divide and himself.
I have no doubt a president with the gifts of Lincoln or Roosevelt might have better bridged the divide.
But all in all, President Obama used his last State of the Union as a call to action.
I believe in change because I believe in you, the American people. And that's why I stand here as confident as I have ever been that the state of our union is strong.
But not everyone was happy with the address.
We've seen him divide the country in a lot of ways. We have to make sure we're not a part of that.
Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett witnessed President Obama's last State of the Union firsthand, and it left her with a sense of what still needs to be done.
Afterwards, I was able to chat with the president and reminded him of the invitation to come to the Virgin Islands, that before you go to Cuba, you need to come to your own section of Caribbean.
Oh, see, well, that'd be interpreted as a vacation.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Meanwhile, the president's address elicited reactions from various quarters on different topics. The president got both nods of approval and shakes of the head from friends and foes. Here's more.
Unfortunately, the president's record has often fallen far short of his soaring words. As he enters his final year in office, Many Americans are still feeling the squeeze of an economy too weak to raise income levels. We're feeling a crushing national debt, a health care plan that has made insurance less affordable and doctors less available.
The fact is that it was Obama's policies that enabled us to have much more domestic production than ever. And I'm glad that the president took credit for things last night.
This is a president who compared those of us who believe that there should be a pause on Syrian refugees. He compared us to terrorists. I mean, you know, this is a guy who shouldn't be lecturing. For him to stand last night, and that was to me one of the most annoying parts of that speech last night, that hosanna at the end from a guy who has been nothing more than a Chicago ward politician in the White House. He's lecturing us about civility.
And he had regret about the divide in our country. My goodness. Think about it. Every time he's had a chance, he pushes down people that disagree with him to make his view look more sophisticated and important.
I was really pleased that he focused a lot of it, not just specifically on what he planned on doing for the next year, but also on where he saw this country going in its future, and how he hoped our mind frame and our movement going forward were going to be. And that, I thought, was what I had focused a lot of my own thoughts as I was listening to him.
Senator Jeanette Millen-Young made a public statement contradicting Governor Kenneth E. Mapp. Millen-Young has sent a release informing that she has not been to the Virgin Islands Department of Finance for any meetings with Commissioner Valimore Collins or his staff since the administration took office. These statements contradict that of Governor Kenneth E. Mapp. Here's more.
In a video-recorded interview, Governor Mapp responded to his post on Facebook, which addressed Senator Millen-Young as a SETI foul, as well as calling her crazy. Virgin Islands Senator Jeanette Millen-Young made allegations against Governor Kenneth E. Mapp, implying that the governor tried to sway her vote in favor of the Arcolite deal. Governor Mapp called the senator crazy and stupid for making such allegations. Today, in a press release, Jeanette Millen-Young stated that the statements that the governor has made have not entirely been true.
Senator Millen escorted her mother to the Department of Finance in January of 2015 and introduced her to the Commissioner of Finance, Valimore Collins, and Mrs. Millen submitted to Commissioner Collins a series of documents and applications requesting these monies on behalf of her husband.
The argument between Senator Millen-Young and Governor Kenneth E. Mapp stems from a long-term claim of Millen-Young's father, former Lieutenant Governor Henry A. Millen. Senator Millen-Young has stated that she tried to claim the monies owed to her father's estate prior to this administration, but was unsuccessful.
The Commissioner of Finance advised me, after a complete review of the process, all of this is in November, that his analysis reveals that the amount of money owed to Mrs. Millen or the estate of Henry Millen is $635,000. Now, this is from 1983 to 2004.
However, both parties have contradicting statements on how the estate of Henry Millen has been handled. Stephanie Brown, News 2.
And Governor Mapp has made statements informing that he will not apologize to Senator Millen-Young. Governor Mapp says he takes the senator's allegations very seriously. Keeping our eye on the economy, here's a look at the stock market watch. The New York Stock Exchange, as you can see, everything down. The Dow down 364, NASDAQ also down 159, S&P 500 down 48. Coming up on News 2, an announcement was made by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to extend the deadline for states and territories to become compliant with the Real ID Act. The delegate explains why this is good news. We'll be right back. Welcome back. On Monday, January 11th, Hugo Hodge, who is the executive director of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, responded to Jonathan Cohen, the owner of JKC Communications. In a press release, Hugo Hodge Jr. stated that he was flabbergasted at the lack of tact taken by Mr. Cohen, threatening to take his radio programs off air due to billing disputes between him and WAPA. News 2 received information from WAPA's Director of Corporate Communications stating that WAPA will not comment outside the contents of their initial press release, especially since Mr. Cohen has filed a complaint with the Public Service Commission. According to the authority, they remain available to Cohen to address his delinquency should he desire to return electric service to his radio stations and resume broadcasting. Senator Novell E. Francis Jr. will convene a meeting of the Committee on Homeland Security, Public Safety and Justice on Thursday, January 14th, to discuss the results of the assessment conducted of the Virgin Islands Police Department by TNM Protection Resources. That meeting will begin at 10 a.m. at the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall in St. Thomas. Representatives from TNM Protection Resources and the Virgin Islands Police Department will be present to discuss the findings of the assessment. Francis said this meeting is an opportunity to also hear the VIPD's plans to implement solutions in ways that address industry best practices and national initiatives. On Tuesday, January 12 at 6:34 a.m., an arrest warrant was executed for Anthony White, 22 years of age, from Estate Montbijou by members of the Criminal Investigation Bureau and the Special Operations Bureau in connection with the May 16, 2015 gun battle that took place on the Christiansted Boardwalk, claiming the life of 26-year-old Blaine Gerard. Anthony White was charged with possession of an unauthorized firearm, possession of ammunition, carrying or using a dangerous weapon, failure to report a firearm obtained outside or brought into the Virgin Islands, and first-degree attempted reckless endangerment. On Monday, January 11th at 3:25 p.m. in Estate Windberg on St. Thomas, the 911 emergency call center notified officers of a home invasion. Upon arrival at the scene, police officers made contact with the victims, who stated that at approximately 3:15 p.m., two men armed with guns entered their residence and demanded their safe, which contained an undetermined amount of money. The incident is under investigation. If you have any information regarding this incident, please contact Crime Stoppers USVI at 1-800-222-TIPS or any of the numbers listed there. The Department of Justice has advised the Virgin Islands Casino Control Commission that all bank and credit card accounts of the commission must be in the name of the chairman of the Casino Control Commission and the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands. That's pursuant to Title 32 of the VI Code, which established the Casino Control Revolving Fund. According to a release from Government House, the Casino Control Revolving Fund governs what monies will be deposited into the fund and who can legally expend those monies. Well, here's an update following an announcement by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to extend the deadline for states and territories to become compliant with the Real ID Act. Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett said she is pleased. She said her office has had several meetings and has been in contact with DHS to ensure the territory received additional time to come in compliance. She says this extension will allow Virgin Islanders who use their locally issued driver's license as their primary form of identification the ability to continue using that form of ID to travel and access federal facilities in the country. The deadline for compliance with the Real ID Act is January 22nd, 2018. The election system of the Virgin Islands will be conducting a voters education and outreach program at the Gift Hill School in St. John this evening. Now tomorrow, on Thursday, January 11th, the education and outreach program will be held on St. Thomas at the Seventh-Day School. Additionally, the St. Thomas-St. John District Board of Elections will conduct its board meeting in the Elections System Conference Room at Lockhart Garden in St. Thomas on Friday, January 22nd at 10 a.m. For information, you can call 774-3107. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.